All right, welcome everyone. I'm here with Val Alino. She is an educator, a life coach, an international speaker. I don't know, she's up to so many cool, interesting things. And I told her that I don't really like to read people's bios because it's not as interesting. I like to hear their words about who they are, what they believe in, and just kind of but I do ask if you could just tell a little bit about yourself to help introduce you to my audience. So thank you for being here, and we'd love to learn more about you.
Thank you so much, David, for having me. And welcome to everybody that is going to join us either as soon as they hear this recording or when they share it with their loved ones. I am Val Alino, but I go by Val. I've always gone by Val. And I am just so ecstatic to be here and grateful. And a little bit about myself. I am a lover of life, I guess that's how I would summarize my life. I just been very in tune with who I am and whom I wanted to be, and was very clear on the mission that I had. And I'm blessed to share with all the audience that I have been able to pursue what I was wanting to do, which is working around children, education, being a coach, a leader, a source of inspiration. And so I'm a Montessori educator. I have ran and owned my school. I am currently right now international consultant for higher ground education. I am a life, conscious parenting, and spiritual coach. And I do go to quite a few fun places to speak about different topics with the intention to inspire others. Basically, love volunteering. Service work is a big part of my blood, my essence, my heart. And just a human being that wants to leave a trace behind and help as many people as I can connect with their own source, their heart.
Beautiful. And I'm so excited. And we met through Facebook. And I told Val that I always think about her as somebody who's dancing. I always think of you as just dancing because I see you light on your feet and I see you being a lover of life. And I love that way of describing it. And it's so interesting because I even forgot to say that you're a conscious parent coach because you have so many beautiful things you're doing that I didn't even remember one of the ones that you also do. But it's so cool. And I'm the same way. I have so many different projects going on because when you really tap into the abundance, you don't have to just be one thing or narrow down to one small thing. And so one thing you said to me before we started recording was that you felt like something was coming up around authenticity. And then the word rebirth also came up. So I thought we'd just kick it off by asking what comes through when I ask the question about authenticity and rebirth.
Yes, and I don't know why they came up, just really centering our energy when we
Yes.
started and setting an intention. And it just got me to hear this word. And I believe because a lot of our audiences and the world is going through this stage of their life where it's being hard to be genuinely who you are, because so many people lost their jobs, so many people have to reinvent themselves, and it is hard to make that balance to be actually genuine with who you are and what you want to do. And then the fear comes in of what you have to do, because we're in fear that the abundance is not there, that we have lost X amount of months of payroll, or the opportunity to lead and grow our projects. And so when that word came up, it was just more to share with everybody that as long as we keep on trusting our path and knowing that there's a higher source guiding us, and that every single situation that comes our way, even the loss of our jobs, the loss of a loved one, hardships to pay our mortgage, whatever it is, it comes with a lesson, with a very deep lesson. And when you can be in a position to just ask, what is it about the situation that I am not seeing? Universe or God or light or angels or stars or flowers, whoever your source of connection is, show it to me. And you can actually sit and feel that the universe really starts showing you in ways how to transform that. The thing is that how I was sharing at the beginning of our podcast is we tap into that space just because we're reading a book, because somebody heard a podcast, because your neighbor came and told you something cool. But then what happens? In a blink of an eye, we go back to where we were. So how is it that we can tap to being is still you. To be able to have a rebirth, if you went to something deep, you have to reinvent. It has to be a rebirth sometimes. It's not just about reinventing. And in my case,
Right.
I've definitely have reinvented myself many times, and literally 3 rebirths that like took me from almost death to who I am.
Yeah.
So it does not matter the amount of falls, which they are not falls. This is where we start to have issues, because our words are vibrational. So if we say we have issues, we have problems, how am I going to pay with this? And then you switch and say, no, that's not what I meant, universe. No, I mean, everything's here. You are asking, but from a frequency that is not in accordance with what the universe is there to receive.
Yeah.
So instead of getting your signs right away and clear, it takes a process. It takes time, and then you lose faith, and we're back to zero.
Yeah. And I know you ended up just coming back from Peru just recently, right? And you weren't planning to be there for as long as you were. So can you tell us a little bit about that story? Because I feel like it's a perfect story of, we think we have to plan. I like to joke now and think anyone who made a strategic plan on January 1st, 2020, how's that going? How's that 5-year plan going? So I think you're a perfect example of when you have the plan and the universe has something else in store for you. And I think this extended trip to Peru is probably a perfect example of that. I'm guessing.
Yes, it taps in perfectly to our introduction. So yes, I never have a 5-year plan because I tend to flow. However, there were some plans in place that nothing happened for sure. So I belong to a group of incredible people called Top Coach International, and we travel around the world to give keynotes or inspirational talks. So I was coming to Peru for the first time ever for a 10-day trip that ended up happening in 8 months. Okay. So imagine that. In my opinion, I was at the perfect time of my life because I finally had my own space. Like it was like really the first time I was living completely alone. It was such a beautiful little apartment with, they called it the magic patio. So many things happened in my little place. And I had the most perfect job. And it was just like my volunteer work, my community. And it's funny, David, that when I left the apartment, I tend to always bless every corner and do my Reiki and my protection signs and all of that. But I actually took a longer exit. Sometimes when we're leaving for the airport, you know how we're rushing, the Uber's there. Yep. And I intentionally, I guess subconsciously,
you knew.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that, I mean, sometimes that you see things that are important to you. Like this is kind of something really silly, but I do not like ironing. So my washing machine takes priority over my bed for me. So I literally was like, oh, my washing machine, I'm coming back. And I was just doing this silly goodbye to everything. So I go, and then this COVID thing happened. We did hit 1 city instead of 5. I was able to talk in presence to 800 educators, and it was just so lovely. And I thought, this is amazing. And then we go to the hotel and they're like, okay, a van is coming to get 7 of you that I did not know any of these 7. Like imagine, like I was just saying, that piece, my own apartment, and then you put in a house with 6, 7 international people that speak different languages, different cultures. Forget about your little safe, happy, alone place. I'm sharing a bedroom with 2 other people. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then you start tapping into like all the buzz, like, oh my gosh, how are we going to get out of here? Wait, I know I had another trip, and then, oh my gosh, my children, and all these doubts and fears. And so it got really chaotic because Peru actually hit hard on COVID. So in terms of comparing what the restrictions from other countries, this was bad. Like you could go a little bit to your backyard, but not even walking in the common areas.
Oh, wow.
It was bad. So my fear started kicking in, right? Of course, I didn't bring my computer because I thought I'm only going 10 days. I'm going to speak. I don't need my computer. Yeah. And in the house that we were at, it was up in a gorgeous place.
Wait, so Val, what did you have? This is so good.
I had a bag. I had a bag with just for 10 outfits. 10 outfits for 8.5 months, you know?
Beautiful.
So while I started in that panic mode. And because of the work I do and stuff, I had some connections with media. I thought, no, let me get the media. So I did 5 news channels, literally. And I was being a vessel to my new friend because she had 5 children and she was, she didn't have a husband. So I wanted to help her get back to Washington. But I was like, let me squeeze in that ride, like, so it opened for her to go, but not for me. And so then I was like, okay, what is it about the situation that I'm not seeing that could be beneficial to me and to all the people around me? And I started, there's this beautiful garden. And so I literally, David, because I didn't have the computer, and I just sat under one particular tree. And what I used to meditate X amount of time, it turned into 5 or 6 hours a day. So you know what happens when you do that.
Oh, yeah, I do.
And for anyone listening, if you do not know the power of meditation, please allow us to be a vessel of inspiration. And of course everybody knows, but really when you experience, there's a before and after. So then I was getting some clarity. And because we were all coaches from all over the world and had different talents, I was, okay, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? I'm like, okay, boot camp, like Big Brother thing. You teach this. I did a calendar schedule. So we each, learned about each other's skills and traits, right? And I did all the spiritual side and this and that. And so we started growing. So lo and behold, what I find is that I have gifts that I didn't know I had. And that actually the things I did, I could take them to another level. And all this magic started happening. Imagine, tapping into the hearts of people that you don't know. And this service work was able to happen even though we were in lockdown, because one of the coaches was a policeman. So I was like, you can just pretend I did something bad, put me in the back of your car. This is a true story. And we'll just go serve. And so what is it about the situations that are in front of us that we think is the end, right?
Yes.
Because I did have to have my friends close my apartment because I didn't have a paid job. I did all the volunteer work because I wanted to do my coaching. And I was tapping into abundance.
Yes.
I was like, if I am here and I could, and this is showing up, it's because it's all of divine order. So all those things all my things that I was living by myself, I don't even know who packed my underwear, it was a group of friends. So I started detaching completely to everything that I thought was important. And guess what? I didn't have that washing machine over there. I didn't have it. It was all hand wash.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So you're like, okay, you don't need any of this. I lived very happily because there was so much transformation, shedding of my last wounds. I spoke to 42,000 people. I was able to speak in audiences of university, big companies, a new area that I had not experienced.
All on Zoom. This was all
through Zoom.
Virtual. Okay.
And of course I panicked, right? Because I was the little bit that you know me, I need the energy. Like I want the people. I want to hug. I'm Latina. I want to just go around people, touch them, ask them to come back, stand up. I couldn't do any of that. And I wasn't techie savvy either.
Right.
So when the situation arises, you ask yourself, all right, I can either sink or rise. I can either cry or laugh. I could either have pain, wounds, and tap into a dark space, or allow light, love, and inspiration and transformation and come into this place. And that's what I did. Okay,
so let's break this down because there's so much wisdom in this story. So the first thing you did is, so here you are, it's supposed to be 10 days and now you don't know how long it'll be. So that's an important point. So what was the moment that you decided you had to surrender? Not had to, but you just surrendered and you just said, I'm not going to worry, be in the fear, be in the low vibration. I'm just going to open up and surrender to whatever is coming my way.
Good question. For me, I mean, I had already been in a spiritual path for a good while. So when you fight, I'm going to get out of here, and door after door after door closes, that it happens in reality to all of us. Instead of being frustrated and angry, I was, now that in my case, I do have a very thick story of upbringing and trauma,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm able to tap into that and
Mm.
understand now that if that is happening is because it's not the way, and that there
Mm.
is something there that I'm not seeing. So through meditation, to be honest, concrete, and through my practices that I have of hearing and being in tune with
Yeah.
source, I was able to know that I just needed to surrender, but I didn't have a plan. I still didn't see what that would, understand what that would even look like. I
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah.
And so that's when and I love the word surrender, and it's something I tap into so often, because it's only in that place that you can, when you've like tried everything, you're not
Mm-hmm.
seeing the light, there's nothing you can do,
Yeah.
nothing. I mean, to be honest, I even called the governor of Georgia, and I was emailing back and forth. I mean, I was like, I am getting
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and this just one magic moment after another magic moment,
Mm.
and then I ended up moving after the other friends, my other colleagues, did their countries open sooner, so
Yeah.
I was the last one standing. Okay, so obviously I couldn't pay that huge house,
Right.
and but the house that I moved into, every single person, I think sometime I did a Zoom with you, and
Yeah.
everybody thought it was a fake backdrop. It was the
Yeah.
dream.
It
It
was
was
so
like,
beautiful. I remember that. Yeah.
people call it the sanctuary of the rock, you know?
Yes.
So it's like a little mini version of Machu Picchu.
Oh, it was so
But
beautiful.
so
Yeah.
the connection, I needed that space to wake up with
Mm-hmm.
hummingbirds and bird
Yeah.
and just wildlife, and that sense of peace that I was wanting. It was there. And and it was there for me to take advantage, because I couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah. So what I'm seeing right now, what I'm getting is the water is really that you decided to be the water. And if we think about this as how people live their daily lives in general, is that we're in resistance to whatever the as is, what the as is, what it is, what's here. And if you can just flow like the water, and you said you were using meditation, using your practices, because it's possible, for some of the other folks, the woman with 5 children, okay, she was supposed to go back, right? But you tried these different things and you kept seeing the doors closing. And so you're wise enough to know, you've done the work long enough to say, oh, okay, now I'm supposed to actually just be the water, and not, and if the water's going this way, it's hard to make it go the other way, right? And and then when you start having these experiences, because I feel like your story also really encapsulates 2020, in that I joked about the, what was your plan in 2020, January 2020, but really this happened to the whole world in a different way. Yours was very a microcosm, as extreme, but it happened to the whole world. Like, oh, I had this job, I had this house, I had this experience, I used to do this every day. And all of a sudden it was like, hey, you don't go to work in the same way, you don't have a job, you don't, you're separated from this person, whatever it might have been. You're stuck in this place. My sister-in-law was a teacher in India, and she had 24 hours to decide if she was going to stay or go. So she left. And she came home and she was like, I've been in India for 8 years. What am I doing now? What am I going to do here? I'm moving back in with mom and dad. I don't want to do that, So she ended up finding another job in the Bay Area, and everything worked out. But again, your story is just a summary of what 2020 was all about. And how many
Absolutely.
people decided to really surrender to the flow and to surrender to the moment, rather than continuing to resist. Because what is resistance? That's creating your own suffering. So you could have
Right.
kept fighting and pushing, right? I'm getting out of Peru, I'm getting out of Peru. I know the media, I know this person, I talked to the governor, and you could have done that for months. And then what would have happened for those months? All the gold that was coming to you, all the magic, would have just not even come your way. Correct?
Absolutely. And to be honest, what has happened in these 8 months does not even happen to you know on a daily basis, on a regular life, even in a period, I would say, of 10 years. Because
Yes.
besides what I shared with you, I also got really passionate about public speaking, and
Mm,
I'm teaching through Speakers Are Leaders. Is an organization that's based on London,
mm,
how to teach, how to connect with your story and speak it. And now
yes.
I also was invited to the Global Women Empowerment Summit in Dubai. I just got back.
Oh,
Now
I saw you on that. It looks amazing. Yes.
but here's the thing, when I got invited, people would say, why did you even RSVP? You're not going. You're still locked down in Peru. And I was like, I know I need to go. But also, if something shifts at the right time, I am okay with it. I wasn't attached.
Right.
And it was a beautiful, opportunity, speaking event, and the opportunity to be with, audiences from all over the world. Of course, my heart wanted to be there, but I was genuinely not attached to that either. And if I tell you the story, my trip got canceled 5 times, my ticket, even though the borders had opened. So they're like, are you giving up? And I'm like, well, there's still 3 more days to go to Dubai, but you got to go to Atlanta first. It will happen the way it has to happen. And it happened. And then from there, other opportunities come. Now I've been invited to Philippines in September. I mean, I met people that do service in Africa. I mean, it just, like I said, blessing after blessing, just by tapping into knowing that the universe wants you to succeed. We are not here to be beings of suffering. We are not. Everything that we go through is just to make us stronger, to learn the lesson, to evolve, transform, and pass the light. Because you cannot keep your wisdom. You cannot.
No.
That's a disservice to the universe and to the world. That's no. So even if it's one person, even if it's your neighbor or in a bigger audience, but always pass the light.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. Always pass the light. Okay, so Rebirth came up, and I'm so excited now because I'm feeling it. So Rebirth is what you talked about, was kind of what happened to me in 2020, but I didn't go to Peru. It was just kind of like, oh, I'm at home now. And I went really deep into 1, 2, 3, 4 hours of meditation. I wasn't going into school every day. I wasn't running around picking up the kids and doing all these things. So it was just like, I just really slowed everything down. And I think the rebirth you're talking about this is a universal rebirth. And you and I have experienced it personally, but we are all one. So if we're experiencing it, everyone's experiencing it. And what you're really referring to is the acceleration. So you said that this could take 10 years, but because there's this conscious shift coming, it's already arrived. There's a massive conscious shift with 2020. So when you can tap into that flow, then you're going to be rewarded. And of course, you've done so much work to get to before 2020, so that you could just really turn on that hose and turn on that fountain and just let it flow. But one of the things you said that I thought was so beautiful and precise is that the universe really wants you to be abundant, and there's beautiful things waiting for you, but it's really like your words and your actions. So the words you speak are very important, the frequency of your words, how you choose your words, and then the actions you take. And again, for you and for me, we could have taken very different actions. In fact, we could have just kept pushing, like we were saying. And, I was doing a lot of the long meditations, and then I was finding, whoa, this is crazy. Like, I started a new business, and I started the coaching business. I started the podcast. I did all these things in 2020. And everyone's like, why aren't you miserable in the corner crying? It's just like, I don't know. I just stayed, I found the stillness for several months. And then all of a sudden it was like, I started following the guidance.
Absolutely.
And I committed to following the guidance.
I love that. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And I want to share with our audience, like, an aha moment for me.
Okay.
I was in an interview in Peru in our home, and I was speaking in the terms of, they were saying, okay, so tell us how you feel. And all of a sudden I said, I feel so free. And they're like, wait, you have been in lockdown now. It was like 6.5 months or something like that. And it just hit me, David. It just hit me. I'm like, it's not freedom of like going out. It's the freedom of me, my essence, my heart, my light. Like, I can feel free even in a lockdown, because nobody owns what my thoughts are. I don't give power to the opinions of others. I don't believe that if I do fail, which is not even the word, just for the purpose of our audience, it's just to get up and have even more strength. Yeah. So when you know that, even right now, my loved ones and close friends.
Yeah.
And I love them and I bless them because they're coming out of with a brokenness themselves. They're like,
Yeah.
okay, look, Val, look at your age, and you're like hopping now from now. I love this life. So everybody says, so where do you live? And I say, well, right now I'm in Atlanta, but
Right.
tomorrow I don't know. Oh, but wait, when are you gonna settle down? Like, you're 48, you have to settle down. I'm like,
Have to, yeah.
oh, yeah. I'm like,
You should.
I just answer with much grace.
Yeah.
What an interesting point of view,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna go right now. I have a next move, a next step. I guess I can share. I'm going to Colombia, and
Mhm.
people first question, how long? I'm like, as soon as I get a clue, I will let you know. But how can you live like that? And I'll get names like, you're living a hippie life and you are running away from things.
Right.
And it's, I hold every single person that tells me this
Yeah.
literally in my heart and send them so much love and light, because look, I want every single people, every single person to tap into this freedom that you and I have
Yes.
finally
Yes.
found,
Yes.
because that is where true happiness is, when you don't
Yes.
depend on a certain activity or a certain way that you
Yeah.
think things have to go, when every surprise that I could be dressed up right now to do something, and then all of a sudden it doesn't go, but you're
Yeah.
still allowing that to happen, because
Yeah.
like, okay, we got to go left, let's go left.
Yes.
Because is not an attachment of any physical things, or even any family member, any human being, anything. Like, I am letting go and just want to live very light so that I can be accessible to,
Yes.
for how long, I don't know, but as long
don't
as
know.
I can, I want to share this love of life with
Yes.
everybody.
Yes. Oh, so beautiful. So beautiful. And I wrote down on my paper, free, and I circled it in all capital letters. And it's ask Nelson Mandela, ask people that have been, in these situations that on the outside are the worst things, prison, whatever it may be. And that's the freedom, the harmony and the peace and the freedom is within, right? So any external circumstance, you can always control internally the freedom and the peace. And so I've gone through the same thing, people saying, how do you feel so free, and what's happening during this time? And what you're really saying is that, this is a question I want to ask, is what you're really saying is that freedom is within. You've almost found like a different realm where your internal landscape is able to connect with the magic, the realm, and then you receive the fruits. And it's the fruits of your labor, because I know you did a lot of work before. I don't even know you, but I know you did, because I also had the trauma in the childhood, and I've done a lot of work. And I know once you work through that, that's when you start to get a lot of the gifts. But the question I wanted to ask you is, how do you, one of the things I want to teach in my life, not even teach, embody, because everyone always knows how to do it. What I want to mirror back to people is how to trust your intuitive guidance system, and how to really trust you. We're all sovereign beings, and we are taught to give away our power by our teachers, by society, by our parents. And one of my purposes in life, or the purpose maybe, is to actually teach people how to come back home and stop giving away all their power. And when I meet people like you, it's like, what did they do to trust the guidance? Like, how do you do it? Is it your meditation? Is it, I don't know, that's why I want everyone to learn how to do it, just trust the guidance. I want every child in the world, for our education system, since you're an educator too, we share that. I want every child in the world they already know how to trust the guidance. I want them to not learn how to unlearn, or how to learn how to not trust the guidance.
Okay, beautiful question. So the first aspect that comes up in what I'm hearing is the heart. Okay,
Mhm.
your heart cannot go wrong. It's that your heart tells you, it rises, it goes out of your chest when you're in distress or when you have an excitement.
Yes.
It stops pumping enough blood when you're sad. It hurts when you are in distress. But how many times do we take time to understand that those differences that we feel physically mean something, and that you start connecting the dots? Okay, I'm sensing that this brings sadness, this is where it hurts, so it's happened once, twice, three. Take notes and learn from it,
Yes.
and don't put yourself in that place again, and just really honoring your heart. Now,
Yes.
how do I get all my answers? I'll tell you my little tricks. Of course, stay grounded.
Yes.
Never, think you've learned it all. Val's a free spirit. She's an angel lover, and she has it all figured out. I do not have it all figured out.
Yes.
Every single day, I do the practices. I wake up with gratitude. I meditate. I stretch, and I stay with that. I want that initial vibration of the day to stay through the day. So if you just do this 5-minute meditation, it's gone in 15 minutes. But
15
when you
seconds.
Yeah.
It's gone in 15 seconds.
So the longer you tap into that momentum, does that mean to wake up 30 minutes early, 1 hour before? It depends on who you are, where you are in life. But just to tap into like, okay, this place feels good.
Yes.
Today is a beautiful day, and I'm ready to start it. And you put that intention. So that helps me keep me where I am. Number one. Number two, of course, try to keep all your habits of, and I still, I've got to be honest, the whole thing about keeping up with my meals and all of that. I am vegetarian, and sometimes I have to remind myself to. So be very watching what you're putting into your body, and very important, who you have around.
Yes.
And I want to, and I have 3 more tricks or recipe tricks that I want to share. But before I go there, it's just coming up really strong that it doesn't matter if it's a loved one, meaning a family member, or your neighbor that is the godparent of your child. If that person is not contributing to your light, is shifting your energy, and it does not matter, as long as you tap in from the heart, you can say, thank you, but no thank you. I love you. I bless you. And I let you go. And I'm here for you whenever you want. And
you can love them from afar, correct?
Exactly. And I have actually done this with quite a few people. Actually, when I got a divorce, and there was just a lot going on with judgment and people, with their own brokenness. And I saw that people weren't tapping in what I needed at the time with so much love. I have actually the what I typed, and it was just like, I love you, I bless you, I want to remember you for these times that we spent together. Our lights, our energy is not matching at this moment. It doesn't, I'm not saying it won't match in the near future, just right now, because I love myself and I have tapped into this. I love you and I let you go, so that. The other thing, when I'm at loss and I can't see clearly, I always invite people to be surrounded by nature, because nature has all the lessons in life, how a plant grows, how a tree sheds leaves. All the love and the magic that happens by just watching nature. And even I'll go one more step, just observe children. And this is why I'm so passionate about it, because I want to give you an example that I talk often in my courses and seminars for parenting. So every single child, including us, we come into this world being loving, empathetic, being, attention to detail, present, loving, problem solvers, inquisitive to learn. Every single one. But we know what happens. You're born, you have broken parents or unconscious parents, not because they're mean, only because they didn't do the healing, and we tap into all that. We forget. But ultimately, when you go and observe a child, which has to do a lot with the Montessori method, for those of you that are hearing us and do not know about Montessori method, we both highly recommend that you tap into that.
Absolutely.
So one of the principles of Montessori is to observe. And when you observe how a child, even when you scold at them, or some parents that spank or yell, the child in 2 minutes comes and says, I love you. Just tap into, go sit in a park and watch how a child helps another child, get up from being hurt even without them knowing. Watch how a child is having a snack and another one goes by and is looking at them, say, would you like some? Children are our true teachers.
Yes, they are. And
this is why I've dedicated my life 30 years of doing this work. And what our work is now that you and I do, David, is helping people go back to that child that
Yes.
we have within.
Yes.
Now, the path to do that, it takes time, patience,
Mhm.
love, acceptance, trust. It is
Yes.
possible. The most trauma, the horrible trauma that you can go into your life, it
Yeah.
can be transformed. And I don't know why
Absolutely.
this story is coming into me. I don't know the real name, but one of the stories that touched my heart the most that I've ever seen in Facebook, it was this um, adolescent guy that shot this woman's son.
Mm.
So shot, and the son was dead. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
So when they went to jail, he went to jail and they had the trial and everything. Long story short, she forgave him because she saw how miserable he was and how sorry he was. And she said, I forgive you. But now we're going to go and tell our story, and we're going to help others um, with our story
Yeah.
know that everything can be transformed through the connection of the heart. And they are like sold out speakers. And now this mom has actually kind of adopted this guy that killed her son. So
Yes.
I at this, there are infinite possibilities to always have that option to go back to source. And
Yes.
in Peru, when I was talking to leaders and educators and everything, if I send you the titles of my talks, they were like leadership through the heart. Everything had the word
Yes.
heart.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I started seeing hearts in the most, like every single thing had the shape of a heart. So I
That
guess
happened to
my
me too. That's happened to me too. Yes. I had like my friend sent me one where I was playing volleyball before the pandemic and I had a heart in my sweat. And then I see heart. We had a tortoise that randomly came into our front yard. It pooped a heart. I'm not kidding. I took a picture. It was a green poop of a heart. I will see hearts everywhere. I could keep going. It's the realm.
no,
The realm. You're accessing a realm that is all about the heart, and so you're getting the signs and synchronicities to show you that this is the vibrational frequency that you're now embodying.
yes. And when you can see love, even in a human being that is cussing at you, that is accusing you of something that you didn't do, and you can still be at a place of grace and love that human being
Yes.
because you can understand how much pain is going through to be able to react and make such a
Mhm.
judgment, and you don't tap into that. That is one of your like graduation points to
Yes.
this path,
Yes,
and
it is.
everybody can do it.
Yes, they can.
So this space we want to open up for all our audience here to be able to be as present as possible, to
Yes.
that, to slow down and to be
Yes.
able to see 10 lenses further than
Mhm.
we could possibly tap by just being in a rush,
Yeah.
by just buying the stories of everyone, by
Mhm.
tapping into fear, by being broken and not acknowledging that you are not broken. We're just in
Yes.
restoration. We're
Exactly.
just in evolution. We are
Yes.
in transformation. And to be honest, I ask everyone that's hearing us here, how boring would our life be if you have the perfect husband or the perfect wife and the perfect house and the perfect children and you have all the money you need? Where's the growth? Where's the magic, the
Exactly.
spark, the uncertainty, the, oh, I wonder what will happen?
Yes. Yes.
So it's just another way of living. And I want to also invite everyone that is hearing us today that you don't have to wait for this tragic to happen in your life,
No. No.
or a loved one. You don't have to have a huge story about your life to be able to inspire.
Mhm.
Every story counts. Your
Yes.
story, every single person that is hearing us today, I want you to know that your story counts. And
Yes.
as these speakers are leaders, we have a motto that says your voice can transform the world, you know?
Yes.
And so speak up and share. It's that magic that I was saying of sharing the light. It could be
Mhm.
talking in the grocery line, while you're
Yes.
waiting for to pay, or if you have the opportunity to be in podcast, and no one can tell you that you cannot do this.
No.
Everyone can have the opportunity to develop the skill that you want, should you do the work and know and trust that everything you need is already inside of you.
Yes.
You have it. It might just be in a couple of drawers down. It
Mhm.
might have a little dust. You might be having a hard time unlocking
Yeah.
that area, that department of your life.
Hmm.
But when it takes time, you appreciate more the effort, and you value more what you had to go through to get to that spot.
And I can tell you, my listeners know that I had the perfect life, quote unquote, Stanford educated, school executive, two kids, a house, and everything. And on my back, I threw out my back. I had paralysis of the face, Bell's palsy, because the universe was like, hey, this is not your path. This is the conditioned path. This is the false self driving the car. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm turning 40 and I'm going to literally jump off the cliff and just go for it. And that's when things really started opening up for me. Because similar to you being stuck in Peru, it was like when your words and actions show the universe that you're in alignment with your truth and your authenticity, then it starts to provide for you, and it shows you exactly what you need to see. And like you said, there's really no good or bad. So something happens for you when you were saying, the same kind of pattern repeats itself over and over and over, is that's something that you need to go within and look at. you know
Absolutely. And I want to tap in a little deeper on what I was saying about the children being our
oh,
teachers,
yes, please.
and also talk about who else can be your teacher besides what I mentioned, the nature and children and tapping into your heart.
Yeah.
So, if you really think about it, our children are actually our therapist. Like, we don't have to do anything
It's
else,
true.
because if we are tapping into something, for
Mhm.
example, that we're not having the patience for something, it's not really just about that moment. We go from 0 to 1,000, snapping and grabbing and
Mhm.
yelling,
Mhm.
not because of that moment, but because of other things that we tap into that bring us a memory, a
Yes.
vibration, or an
Yes.
emotion from
Hmm.
previous
Yeah.
times of our life. So when you feel, all the parents hearing here in this podcast, or if you're planning to become a parent, listen, please, you just allow your children to thrive in a loving setting by you just being present, whole, and understand that if you lose it,
Mhm.
that you can step away 3 seconds or step back,
Yeah.
close your eyes, tap into, like, where is this coming from? Because it's
Yes.
not coming from because your child didn't put away his
Right.
toys.
Right. Right. Right.
And so when you can change that, instead of scolding and screaming, and say, you know what, thank you. I mean,
Hmm.
I did not know I still needed to work on that. I mean, just
Exactly.
recently I lost it in a situation, I didn't hear back from somebody, and I was tapping into fear. And I
Hmm.
thought that department, things come out. You're like, oh, I graduated.
Yeah, I
Yay.
checked it
No.
off, right?
And now, so it came back. And as I was
Yeah.
getting upset with this person, I said, wait, thank you. Thank you for showing up, because now you came as a teacher, and let me see where this is coming from and how
Yes.
deep I need to go
Yes.
back. So that is one.
Hmm.
And the other aspect is that to be open that the last person that you could ever dream of in your life can be that one light that you needed to completely transform a pain
Mm.
or an interesting point of view or a hurt. And where is this coming from? I live a life of service, and if
Hmm.
I don't have it, I feel like that's my vitamin. That's a vitamin I take. And
Mm. Okay.
I was blessed to be in a home that taught me by example my
Okay.
entire life. And
Hmm.
in those moments of that I've been broken, and I've actually had two very deep depressions. One of them I almost, couldn't come back to life about
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
So, and people say to you, you can't help others until you feel well. You can't. Look at you.
Right.
You're gonna give them pity. You're gonna make
Hmm.
them more upset. You're broken. You don't have the energy. Don't What are you gonna teach them? Look at you. You don't stop crying. I want everybody hearing this podcast to please, whether it's this or anything, if anybody tells you in your life you cannot do it, if your heart calls upon to do it, because it was my CPR of my soul, my comeback. When I've been working in a volunteer way with children with long-term illnesses and severe traumas and families. And when I was there with them, it's like you put your life into perspective and they end up giving you some wisdom that you didn't know. Right now, I'm currently in an organization called Food for Lives. We feed the homeless, but not only food, we feed food for their soul as well. And
Nice.
I'm telling you, David, that the one time that I was just actually my arms weren't working because like you had your paralysis, my arms stopped working right before going to Peru. Actually, my family said you're not going to Peru. And when I got there, I had a person in line, a spiritual healer that helped me heal, but I could not move my hands. Okay. And my neck started to be stiff, and these homeless people, I was just walking, hey, do you want, here's your food, da, da, da. And they're like, no, we just want to hold your hands and pray with you. And I cannot tell you, David, the prayer, like I can't even like tell you the story, how deep they went and how that transformed my life over and over again, experience after experience. I have an adolescent guy who's been in jail back and forth for drug abuse. And in my deepest pain that I had as a parent, he said something from his one call from jail, from his 3 minutes. And he actually calls me Ma. He says, Ma, I said, tell me, we have 3 minutes. What's the update? How are you feeling? He said, what's wrong? I said, no, I'm fine. Obviously he's not seeing me. It's not Zoom.
Right.
And he's like, no, I feel that your heart is not well. Okay. This is an inmate.
Right.
Okay. And so what I'm trying to say here, this person took away the most hardship of pains that I've had in that period of time of my life. So what would it take for this space to open up, that all our audiences can tap into that oneness and openness, to not have judgment of the way somebody looks or where they live or what they've been through? Like, oh, he's so broken, he's so messed up, there's no way he's going to help me. The person who you least expect will give you, not CPR, will lift you up in ways you have in even famine. So I wanted to invite our audience to do that.
And you mentioned that you're writing a book, so I'm hoping this will go in the book because this is good stuff. This is the best.
Yes, it's been in my heart, and now people are like, you have to, because, and of course we're just tapping into the Peru chapter, but there's definitely
so many chapters.
I'm actually looking for somebody who wants to do a Netflix series, and I'll give them series 1, series 2, and bestsellers. So
I can see it.
It's just a beautiful journey that I appreciate so much, that we can tap into this together, because and guess what? The people who are going to hear this podcast is exactly the people that need to hear it.
That is so
So
true.
you and I know that in our work, we don't even have to like say, please share, please, and do all this thing to make this be heard, because you and I know that this work and for our conscious parenting coaching and Dr. Shafali, 1 is a million, right?
Absolutely. Can I tell you a precise story about that example? I mean, there's so many, but this comes to mind. So I did a talk for a mastermind leadership group, like on Zoom, and I don't really write down my speeches anymore. They kind of come through me, but I was like, well, I don't know these people, so I should probably prepare. So I just was on my walk and I just recorded it in a voice memo. And I was like, whoa, that was so good. I should make this a podcast episode. So I just unedited and made it a podcast episode. And in that episode, I shared about my molestation, being molested as an 8-year-old. And I hadn't told my family. My family never listens to the podcast. They might listen to this again, but every single one of them, they only listen to 1 episode. It was that episode. And I was like, thank you, universe. Now I don't have to go through the awkward thing of, hey, let me call you. Okay, let's sit down. Let's talk about it. Just like they all heard it. And so exactly who's supposed to hear this episode will hear it.
And I love it. I'm so glad you share that. And it does happen. I'm going to tap into that, because perhaps this is where we need to go to give us a strong closure. Just like that, I broke my story for the first time, and in the audience of Dubai. So there's no filters there. Wow. It went like boom. And so one of
Beautiful.
the hardest times of my life is when I got divorced, the separation of my children. Being
Yeah.
a person who was thinking about parenting when I was a teenager, bought my first book of parenting when I was a teenager.
Wow.
I was like, I don't want any child to go through what I went through. That's another
Hmm.
podcast.
Yeah.
And I just was very determined to do this work. And so, of course, I wanted to be the best mother and dedicate my life to this and learn about education so I didn't miss a beat in my children's life,
Yeah.
because I was echoing what I was missing in what happened in my life. And then I get divorced. This only happened 4 years ago. And because we're a Montessori family and we have lived this life of volunteer and spirituality and whatever, I
Yeah.
just could not go to LA at the time. I also had a epiphany about my father's death, and I was told how
Mm.
long he was going to be, and it
Yeah.
happened just as it came. So long story short, I ended up coming to Mexico.
Okay.
My children went to LA. So culturally, Latino families, it
Mm.
does not exist that a
Yeah.
mother does not live with their children.
Right.
You
Right.
abandon the child, what this and this. And so I had all these things. And actually imagine my loved ones, okay, that say you won't be able to teach anymore parenting because you have a broken family and
Right.
your children are not with you. People are not going to believe you.
Right.
And I bought, because I was in lack and in fear, I
Mm.
bought into that story for 6 months. That caused me
Yeah.
one of my depressions.
Mm.
And guess who took me out of that child from that story that I told you in the jail.
Mm.
When I said to him, Eli, I'm just really hurting, this is the situation, people are judging me and I don't know how to get out of it. And he said, Ma, you gave your children the most important gift that you're not seeing and they might not be seeing, and that everybody in this jail would kill for that opportunity. And I said, Eli, what are you talking about? He said, Ma, you gave them the freedom of choice. The freedom, you believed that they could make this responsible choice. And I mean, he went on, and I don't want to kind of break right here, but
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say is that just like you, I stood up on that audience right now 3 weeks ago
Mm.
and I spoke
Yes.
that. And guess what happened, David? I had over 20 women come and cry to me, say,
Oh.
you have taken so much
Mm.
pain because I don't live with my children because of this, A,
Mm.
B, C, D. I've
Yep.
never even spoken. Like, thank you. And so, well, the interesting point of view is that I am detached from my children, that I don't see them. I want to ask all our audience, like right now they're 19 and 15, and I travel with them and I have fun with them. I know all their stories, who they are with. I have such an incredible relationship with them. So even when you live with your children, you
Hmm.
might not have. So what is it about these interesting point of views of what parenting is, what career you have to take, how you have to do X, Y, Z?
Yeah.
If you are just tapping into source and go back to your heart and trusting that this quote unquote physical distance is going to detach you from your children or your loved one or your
Yeah.
project, it's not the case. It is all where you are at that time. Where is
Yes.
your essence? Where's your
Yes.
vibration? Where's your
Yes.
trust? Where is where is where are you? How are
Hmm.
you showing up to believe that everything is in divine order?
Mm. Yeah,
And
that's
so,
it. That's
as
it
I
right
always
there.
say, let go and let God,
Yes.
because I would have never had, I don't think, the relationship that I have with these adolescents, boys,
Hmm.
that I have right now based on this.
Mm.
I don't do anything without, they're my best friend. Like they
Yeah.
have an opinion. And my son just got out of college. He wants to do a trip with his mother. Tell me which adolescent wants to go on with his mom on a trip after high school? Who? So we just want to open this space to our
Hmm.
audience to know that there is something more than what we think. There's more than what we have been taught,
Yes.
that more than what we are taught to follow. And just to really take the time to slow down and live and have
Yes.
fun,
Yes.
because it is now. The time is now.
The time is now. And what you're bringing up is so beautiful. And this is a great way to close. Is 2020 is giving us that opportunity to really analyze, break down, not even analyze through the mind, but to understand that these are all conditioned stories. And I've been doing a lot of work with, getting through some of the things I have with my mother. And I realized I did a hypnotherapy session just recently, and there was so much conditioning around what a mother is supposed to be. And I never thought about it that way, but it's like so much conditioning. And so because my mother struggled, it's like my egoic story was like, oh, she's a bad mother or whatever. And then I couldn't let her go in the hypnotherapy because of the fact that there was a story around the conditioning of like, well, if I let go the mother that I never had, then I'll never get the mother that I wanted, you know? And it's like, wait a minute, can't you, everyone's a mother, it's just so all the conditioning. So everything in 2020 is, the universe is pointing to us and say like, it says it's all on the table. What is it about that? What conditioning do we want to buy today? Because it's all on the table and everything's being shaken up. And it's such an inspiration to be sitting with people like you and to hear that when you start just not believing the stories. And thank you so much for sharing your story about your kids, because I know that's a big one for you. And it's really, I feel honored that you shared that with us today. And you're such an inspiration.
Thank you so much. Well, like Mother Teresa says, she's one of my heroes, like it's not about how much you do, but how much love, how much heart you put into the things you do. So it's not my intention, our intention, because I think, David, you and I are in the same vibration, is just to inspire our audience to know that you are where you're supposed to be.
Yes.
And everything will come.
Yes.
Just to enjoy, breathe, give thanks, help, pass the light, and the rest is history.
The rest is history. And just trust the guidance, trust that little voice that wants to give you the guidance. And if you trust that voice, everything will come together.
Absolutely. And of course, if they need a tribe, they can join you, me, us, and your teacher would come. The person who you need to connect with to help you heal and grow will come. You don't even have to search. So if you are hearing this podcast, you might.
On that note, Val, share some places they can find you, and we'll put it in the show notes and everything. But just in case, just so we can hear it, just let's
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I do have a new website that I'm very blessed how it came out, and it has my name, valalino.com.
Okay.
ALINO, valalino.com. And in Instagram and Facebook, my professional pages are Val Alino Coach.
Oh, great.
And so I'm always available to help inspire, whether it's a speaking engagement, a speaking course, coaching, life coaching, conscious parenting, anything I could do. It would be an honor to me to serve anybody that comes my way, your way. And of course, we have the same mission, so we can unite hearts and even come do greater work. Huh?
Yes, beautiful. Thank you so much for your time today. And again, I'm in massive gratitude and so much appreciation, and just really love every second of this conversation. And I hope everyone enjoys it as much as I did. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone that is here hearing this podcast.
All right, thank you.